It's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I grew up with an abusive father. Not only did he physically hurt my mother, he emotionally and mentally and financially abused us. When my mother threw him out when I was 9, not long after his mother passed away, it was a daily struggle for us. My mother had to go working 7 days a week, 15-hour days. And it was hard on us because I can still remember my father with an order of protection that says to stay 500 feet away, yet he would go to the bar next door. He came into the deli my mother was working in one day, and he threw a pot of boiling water at her, even though she had called 911. My father used to stalk us. On October 14th, it'll be 23 years that he passed away, and I hadn't seen him since I was 12. He even came and stalked my office because my dad's one sister told him where I was working. When he passed away, he knew who I was when he was strapped to the bed because he got meningitis. When he was having surgery to fix his back, and I wound up going to see him. All his brothers and sisters were like, do we tell the girls? Do we not tell the girls? It's up to them if they go. So I go, and he notices who I am. Granted, he's strapped to a bed, detoxing. When he passed away 3 weeks later, and we get the call to go to the hospital immediately, which he was in the Veterans Hospital in the city, because he is a Vietnam veteran, and he was very proud of being a Vietnam veteran. He hadn't responded to any of the doctors and nurses for 24 hours. When I walked in the room and I said, "Daddy, I'm here," and he reacted to me, and the nurse asked who I was. We all stayed at the hospital for the last 24 hours of his life, and I can still remember my aunt taking us to go get something to eat at the diner across the street, and when my other aunt came to get us, and she goes, "No, it's time to come." So we went, and I held his hand, and as his heart stopped and I started crying, his heart started again. And my sister was holding my other hand and said, "You just need to let him go." All his brothers and sisters were in the room with us. And that's something I'll never forget, is making peace with him. Because if I didn't make peace with him, because he had alcoholism, and he would go from work to the bar to come home, sometimes when we had left for school to change clothes, and we would go to see him in the hospital when he had taken cars from work to go visit properties. He would beat my mother in the hospital room. And it would be very traumatic for us to go see him in the hospital being little kids. My sister doesn't remember as much as I do because she was a lot younger. When he passed away, we had his funeral service. My nephew comes in to pay respects with my brother-in-law and goes, "Why is the man in the box sleeping?" He was like 2.5 years old. And there was a picture of me, my sister, and my father that was his favorite picture in the whole world. And he didn't even notice it. And as he's gotten older, we've explained to him who my father was. And my mother's mother was an alcoholic too. And that is why my grandparents broke up. My grandmother used to drink. Granted, she wasn't supposed to drink because she had diabetes. But it didn't make a difference, and it destroyed her life physically, where she had been in the hospital many times for her heart or pneumonia. And when we found out about my real grandfather, when I was a teenager, she got all twisted. And every time we would come home from visiting him, she would question us. "Well, what did he do to you? What would he do with you?" Never mind, we didn't realize, as we were at my uncle's house, my mother's half-sister would come and babysit us. And then go tell my grandfather about us. Yet, I come to find out My father called my grandfather when I was born behind my grandmother's back. And my grandmother didn't like me because I looked just like my father.